We are watching attorneys for Nolan Wells' family releasing the results of their independent autopsy report. 18-year-old Wells died after a July 4th boat trip with friends off the coast of Mississippi. His body was recovered on July 6th, and authorities say they believe he drowned and that there was no indication of a crime. But Wells' family says they have a lot of questions. And the family's attorney now says an independent autopsy found the cause and manner of death to be undetermined, pending more investigation. Let's bring in ABC News chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky and legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer for more. So, Aaron, walk us through Ben Crump's arguments here. Why release these results if they're saying they don't have a result without more investigation?
Because he promised they would, and the family ordered it, and this is an expectation. They want to keep the case in the public eye. They want to add pressure to Mississippi authorities to conduct what they've called a fair and thorough investigation. And here, the independent autopsy does nothing at the moment, seemingly, to be at odds with the initial suspicion that Nolan Wells drowned off the coast of Mississippi. And as I think Ben Crump's comments reflect, the circumstances of what led him into the water are still unclear. This independent autopsy can't determine, and state investigators have not released their findings yet. But it's based on more than an autopsy. It's interviews with eyewitnesses and video and image analysis to try and understand what led Nolan Wells to go into the water and what were the circumstances that led to that. And those questions still have not been answered.
Brian, Crump is saying the reason this independent autopsy couldn't determine the manner and cause of death is because the state has not handed over enough to their expert in order to be able to do that. How much pressure does that now put on the state to release their autopsy results and also maybe give the family and this independent expert more to work with here?
How much, I think it might be hard to quantify, but it definitely increases the amount of pressure, because I think while Ben Crump and his team are not providing us with answers in terms of what was the manner of death, what was the cause of death, it at least gives enough to say, okay, this is what's missing for us to be able to do the analysis, because simply having a deceased person or a dead body doesn't give you all the answers. But I think what it does do is he's pinpointing, okay, the throat is a place we need to investigate. Okay, the manner in which his body was found, fully clothed, when we see videos of him without a shirt on, that is another point that we need to investigate to further our understanding of this. Because like any medical examiner, they're not just taking the individual's body, they're also taking the circumstances and the information they have surrounding the body to come up with a cause and manner of death. And Ben Crump, I think, is attempting to put pressure on the state and have other people kind of have this unsatisfactory feeling of we need to put pressure on the state so they can get those answers. I think that is part of the motivation here.
And yet, Diane and Brian, the independent autopsy revealed no fractures or deep tissue injuries. And so that does sort of suggest, even if it's not conclusive, that he wasn't beat up. He may not have been thrown overboard. I mean, there are things that this can rule out. There were no gunshot wounds. There were no stab wounds. There was no, it doesn't seem like a violent end, at least before he went into the water. So there's still a lot of questions and a lot of circumstances to understand, but the absence of fractures or deep tissue injuries does seem like a significant point.
But that's not including the throat, which is what Ben Crump is talking about. Yes, the occipital bone, which we can get Dr. Sutton here to do a better job of it, but we're talking about the back of the head here, which you typically talk about, like, did he fall on the boat and hit the back of his head and lose consciousness and that? Yes, absolutely rule that out, but I think what Ben Crump is attempting to do is, here's a piece that is important, the throat, that we don't know. And I don't know if that's going to win him the day, but at least he's trying to apply pressure, I think, the tactic there.
Yeah, and Crump's also not a doctor, but he's trying to explain this in layman's terms. Listen, you know, you're trying to say someone drowned, you need to be able to see if the body has water in it. You need to be able to see that person's throat. They've got this red mark on the back of the head. What does that mean? Aaron, how much of the state's autopsy is expected to answer some of these questions that Crump is now posing?
Not clear. It depends on the findings, I suppose, and how much of it is going to be released. We rarely get detailed autopsy results. That's something that typically only the families of the decedent end up getting. We'll get a basic cause and manner of death, but the kinds of details that you get in this independent autopsy, apparently with the concession of the family, are rarely released in official autopsies, but they're still not finished with it. So we'll see, and we'll also see what the toxicology says about what may have been in Wells's system at the time.
All right, Aaron Katursky, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you both. We are watching.
Okay, so shout out to that was NBC News for that reporting. So now we have the independent autopsy has came out and gave us some information, although not overly conclusive information about the manner of death. It's been ruled inconclusive, and the first autopsy, the initial autopsy, I haven't heard of it being released yet, so we don't know what's in that report and what's in those findings. But in this independent autopsy, we do know some things, that he had a red mark on the back of his head by the occipital bone or something, and he's also missing the throat that was not included in the body when it was transferred to the independent autopsy. And so when I first heard that the throat part was missing, I immediately thought, was he strangulated? Was he choked? Was there any kind of damage to the throat muscles that would give us an indication of, did he have a restricted air rate or something like that? But we don't know that because, like I said, the first autopsy result hasn't been revealed as of yet, and the throat was not included with the body transferred to this independent autopsy. And so the manner of death is inconclusive. We do not know how he passed or what happened to the body, but they have said that it doesn't appear that there was any internal bruising or the body appeared to be beat up. But there's still some sketchy things, because when they found his body, it was laying face down and he was fully clothed. So there's some question of when did he went and put his clothes on, and how did he end up face down in that position in the manner of which he was found. So that again was from NBC News, so shout out to that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and find a couple more videos, and we're going to watch a couple of more videos. So let's start off with this one here. I don't believe this is the one the one was NBC News. This is ABC News. So let's see what ABC News has to say. I don't think this is the same video, though.
We are watching attorneys for Nolan Wells' family releasing the results of their independent.
Yeah, that's the same one. So that's my fault. It wasn't NBC News. It was ABC News. Okay, that's the first video. So we're going to go over here and watch Hot Topics and see what Don Lennon has to say. And this says it's live.
Monique Presley, I want to bring you in. As you're watching this, you're an expert. You have used, obviously, autopsy reports in court. And what is your takeaway from what you heard from Ben Crump today and in this report?
I have used them in court. I have observed them, unfortunately, any number of times. And I want to make sure I agree with the bulk of what Dr. Frieda is saying as our medical expert here on the show today. I just want to be clear that the neck portions that have been held back are not missing. Dr. Mitchell stated that the reason that they likely have not been turned over from the state, that it's normal even in his practice to hold those portions for further examination when they release the remainder of the body to the family, so that the family can go forward with their homegoing celebrations, interment, whatever is planned. But the state likely still has those portions, and frankly, the state has not been willing to release its examination because they don't have toxology report back, and because they have told the public and the family that the investigation, their examination is not yet complete. So what I wish, because—
So Monique, just real quick, because I think they said that it was, I think he said at the top, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that the findings that he was reading from was from July 19th. So they've had this. I think he said this was done on July 19th. And
the
so, that's been a couple
autopsy,
of days.
yeah.
So that goes along with what you're saying. I just wanted to back that up because this is the 22nd right now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, and I could understand they would, want to do it after the funeral. That makes sense. But for him to not have certain pieces that he needs in order to have a conclusive investigation is because those elements are still under review and under investigation by the state. What I wish, since today was largely inconclusive, we have more questions than we have answers. What I wish is that he was able to have the first autopsy. Lots of times when we end up ordering independent autopsy examinations, it's a different circumstance slightly than this, where there is something that has been ruled out by the initial autopsy, and for whatever reason, it's found to be suspicious, or we need more detail, or we have a recalcitrant examiner's office that isn't giving any more information. It looks like what they did was not enough. And so you have to go to another examiner, get an independent autopsy, if you're able to, if the family is able to, and you get more and you're able to compare. I see a bruise here now. There was not a bruise on the first day, so maybe this happened post-mortem. I don't see skin abrasion here. You have the full neck examination. I have a toxology report. So the things that Dr. Mitchell was saying, I've interviewed Dr. Mitchell. I've deposed Dr. Mitchell. I have nothing but respect for him. Go Bison. But some of the things that would be asked, right, as he said in his report, is if you are dealing with someone who could swim, you would want to know what condition they were in when they hit the water, whether they were forced into the water or whether they put themselves in the water. So you can't even figure out whether he was swept up by a current or whether he was hit over the head and knocked off a boat. None of those things are real to us right now, Don. None of those are in the land of facts. And so I think what the attorneys wanted to do on behalf of the family is give as much transparency as they could, as soon as they could, but it has not resulted in any answers. So even, for instance, where what could be a subdural hematoma, I've handled medical malpractice cases where patients have died, where it was not even realized that was happening to them until it was too late. And what we would need to know, one of the things Dr. Mitchell says is that the skin shows that there was no external bruising. So it does not, we don't have anything right now that would show, for instance, that he was hit in the back of the neck and it made a bruise or right below the head. We don't have anything to support that, nor do we have anything to support that there was injury to the bone there. But we have something that is showing in the tissue for which we don't have an explanation. So I caution today the same way I always do. I heard people in the room who were screaming when it was read in the report that organs were removed, because they just didn't have an understanding that is a natural part, that is a correct part of the process to do an examination, and that the organs were not missing. They were then returned. They were bagged and returned. And all of that is horrible to have to hear for a first time. But it certainly is something that can cause people who are very interested in this case to jump to conclusions. And I'm glad at least that it was explained that the things that were done were things that have to be done in order to get to the answers.
So may I ask this, how long does it usually take for tox reports?
I'll let Dr. Frida go first.
That can take weeks, it can take months. That's the part that many times most of the media, most people have tuned out, because the preliminary autopsy report most often will give usually it's correct, the very likely diagnosis. So it could be weeks, it could be months. So I don't know. They're going to look at all the different organs, and there are going to be many things that they test for. And so we don't know.
And Don, that's why if you think about any kind of famous cases where people are waiting on official cause of death, whether you think of Whitney Houston or Michael Jackson or any person where there was a suspected drug involvement, and I am not saying that is what is the case here. I am saying when you're waiting to figure out whether it is a rule out or whether it is a determinative factor, many times we find that out a month after the fact, sometimes 2 months after the fact. I can't remember the name of the person from the Friends cast who died, and I think it was like 6 months.
Matthew Perry.
Yeah, before there was an official determination.
Yeah.
And so and what was the name? Perry?
Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry. And so sometimes you're just waiting on a rule out and you have enough from everything else you've seen for a cause of death, but we are in the blind here entirely because we don't have the rest of the state's official autopsy results.
Right.
And you know, media is media, but if you're going to ask a question, then ask, what have you been told about the official autopsy?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's the question I thought was going to be in the room,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the question in the room.
Right, so that was not a question in the room, and I was hoping to hear something about the original autopsy as well. We haven't heard anything about it. So that was Don Lemon, and that was live. So they're discussing the aftermath of what they heard from the independent autopsy. So they're giving a breakdown of the results that they have heard. Okay, so now I want to find a video where we can go sort of like at the beginning of the autopsies being read by Benjamin Crump. So I'm going to try to find a video that is from the beginning. So most of the videos right here that I'm watching and that I see, they are live. So if I click on the live one, then we're just going to like click right into the middle of the conversation. So I kind of don't want to do that, but I may have to, because all these here that I'm looking, they're live. So I may come back and do, okay, here's one. This is like very long, but I think this is live. So this is Benjamin Crump reveals Nolan Wells independent autopsy results, and shout out to Roland as Roland S. Martin for this. I think this is like here, the very beginning of the reading of the independent results. So I'm going to click over here, and then we're just going to go ahead and watch it. I think I can skip some of this because it's no longer live. I try to skip a little bit forward, but I don't want to miss nothing, you know? So we're just going to go ahead and watch it. And so before they come to the podium, I will click back over when they start. I want to keep the family in our prayers because it's hard on them. And then what social media, some people coming out on social media just doesn't have a heart. They're cruel and they're intentionally cruel. So we definitely have to keep the family and the friends in our prayer. Ask God to protect them and give them comfort and strength during these trying times because they just buried their son. They lost a son and to the father, this is like you inheritor, he's supposed to inherit after you. So this is devastating in that aspect as well. And I think it's just cruel and unusual for some of the people, some evil people coming out saying some of the things that they're saying. That's just not right during an high emotional time such as this. So I'm going to click back over here. And they're not on a podium yet, but they're showing different people that's in the audience, I believe. Okay, they're on the podium now.
Momentarily, you will hear from renowned civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, who will provide updates on the findings of the independent autopsy that was conducted in the death of Nolan Wells. Immediately following that, we will take questions from credentialed media. We'll attempt to answer as many questions as we can. However, we want to be respectful of the fact that we do have additional programming that is going on to conclude our convention today as well. So we're asking that all press and media, if you're asking questions, please be concise, give your name, give your media credential, and we'll go from there. But before he comes, we will have the leader of the NAACP, President Derek Johnson, to give opening remarks. President Johnson.
Good morning. Far too often our young people are confronted with challenges, and many jurisdictions and states don't take those challenges serious. We cannot allow another individual, particularly a young black man's death, go uninvestigated. We have seen this happen over the years, not only in Mississippi, but across the country. It is unfortunate that our young people only seek to enjoy life, and as a result of participating in activities no longer have life. For the NAACP, we take this and many other cases serious because every person matters. I want to thank the Mississippi State Conference, particularly Alitra Perryman, for working with the family and supporting the family on the onset. Because it's difficult to lose a loved one, it's even more difficult to navigate a process when all eyes are on you. And the pressure of balancing between grieving and navigating is upon you. And so, for the NAACP family, this is our role, is to step in, to support when the families have an issue like this, and the local officials seem not to hold people accountable. It's unfortunate when you see news reports and law enforcement officials are repeating what individuals are saying as opposed to investigate the individuals who gave you the information, because you don't know who was involved or not involved. And so narrative matters in this case. And we're saying that in Nolan Wells' situation, the narrative should not be it was an accident before there was an investigation. The narrative should not be the words of individuals who went on a boat to the island with him, but they came without him, but with his cell phone, and you don't investigate those individuals. Without accusing anyone of anything other than the state of Mississippi and local officials, we're accusing them of being derelict in their duties to follow up and to ensure that regardless of what happened, that there was a proper investigation so that this family and that community could be assured that if anyone was involved, they would be held accountable. And if it was truly an accident, that the families will have the necessary answers that any family deserves in this situation. I want to bring to the podium Attorney Benjamin Crump, a friend of mine who have stepped in to take the case and in support of the family to ensure that they get the answers that they deserve and that local officials and anyone involved will be held accountable to this family, to that system, because we are all parents, siblings, to loved ones who should not be confronted with this reality. Attorney Crump.
Thank you very much, President Derrick Johnson, for your leadership, for the leadership of the Mississippi Conference of NAACP, and being there during the homegoing services to help the family go through what no parents want to go through. Thank you to Chairman Leon Russell, my longtime mentor from Florida, who helped raise so many of us. Thank you for always being there, Chairman Russell. As President Johnson said, I'm Attorney Ben Crump, representing the family of Nolan Wells, but it's not just me, it is a team effort of incredible, dedicated lawyers and investigators and paralegals. Attorney Lisa Park, attorney who you'll hear from in a few minutes, Attorney Eric Hertz, Attorney Gary Buchan, Attorney Camila Moore, Cliff Jones, Jared Presson, Alan Williams, our whole team of people who are committed, as I said, President Johnson, on this ferocious search for the truth of what really happened to Nolan Wells. But before we begin to discuss the intricacies of the preliminary findings of the independent autopsy, we think it would be appropriate for you all to hear from the people who knew Nolan Wells best, so they can thank you themselves and tell you about the trials and tribulations that they have been enduring since July 4th. July 4th would never be the same for them. I bring to the podium Nolan Wells' mother and father, Christine and Elmore. Please give them a warm NAACP welcome.
First of all, I want to say thank you all so much. Thank you to President Johnson as well as Chairman Russell. This has been a difficult journey. Losing a child, it truly breaks your heart. It is a pain that is just, you can't measure it. Especially someone like Nolan, who brought so much joy and light and life to everyone. You don't find too many genuine people like him. So to lose that light at such a young age under these circumstances has been absolutely difficult. which is why we've gone this route. There's so many people out in the public asking all of these questions, but the only question that we have is what happened to our son. That is the only question. We have consistently been degraded by the public. There's been questions about our parenting, our GoFundMe, this, that, and other. I've been called a racist. I am a healthcare provider, and I take my job very seriously. I love everyone. And it's been difficult for us, but we are leaning into our faith, leaning into one another, also leaning into all of you. There are not enough thank yous, not enough appreciation for what you guys have done for us. And we do. We love you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. And so it is our hope that our local authorities will do what they need to do, because us having the preliminary autopsy results and hearing nothing from them, it's heartbreaking and it's concerning, which again is why we are here, why we have asked for this help. So again, thank you all so much for your support. We appreciate you, we really do.
Every day I wake up, it's a new challenge. Knowing that a part of me I will never talk to, I will never hold, I will never play around with or get mad at, is not here anymore. Nolan brought a lot of joy to our family. He was the wittiest one out of everyone. The clown. He loved to put in the work because he wanted to be the best. He wanted to make me and his mother proud, and we were so proud of him just for being the person that he was. He was loving. All his teachers knew him, but loved him. He walks in the room, his aura, you are automatically drawn to it. Never met an enemy, and if they were, they would eventually be friends, because they would eventually bond, and it's going to be hard. He should be at football practice right now, calling me out to practice. Dad, I made this play, or I made that play, or I get a text with 3 or 4 videos of him doing this, running this route, making this block. And what you think? What you think I should do? And I will give my honest, because I always tell her, if anyone is going to be totally honest with you, it's going to be me. And it's not because I'm being mean, but people outside your family are going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to know to make you better. It's going to be hard for our family from here on out. And like I said, every day is a challenge. We're going to miss our son. And like my wife said, we just want honesty. We want to know what happened to our son, because the things that you're telling us, that's not the character of our son. We know our son. I understand, our children would do things that, they would kind of dumbfound us sometimes, but the things that we're being told, there wasn't Nolan. So please keep us in your prayers, keep him in your prayers. And we're going to keep pushing and fighting until we find answers. Thank you guys for your love and support.
Thank you so much, Christine and Nolan. Christine and Elmore, Nolan's mother and father. Before we start to go over the preliminary findings from the independent autopsy, we will hear from Attorney Lisa Park to tell you about who was the forensic pathologist who conducted the autopsy. Attorney Lisa Park.
Thank you. Dr. Roger Mitchell could not join us today, but we felt it important before we reveal and unfold this report that you understand who conducted this autopsy. Dr. Roger Mitchell is a physician and board-certified forensic pathologist with 2 decades of experience. He currently serves as the president of the National Medical Association, which is the oldest and largest group of Black physicians in the U.S. Most recently, he also served as president of Howard University Hospital, chief medical officer of the Howard University Faculty Practice Plan, and chair of the Department of Pathology. Before joining Howard, he served as chief medical examiner for Washington, D.C. from 2014 to 2021, and later as interim deputy mayor for the Public Safety and Justice. Dr. Mitchell has conducted and managed thousands of autopsies and is nationally recognized for his work at the intersection of medicine, public health, and justice. And for this case, we sought out the very best, and we are proud to be working with the very best.
Thank you, Attorney Park. I again want to express our gratitude to President Johnson, Chairman Russell, and the NAACP, because civil rights is more important than ever in the United States of America today. And so we thank you for the civil rights leaders stepping up to say that our children's lives matter now more than ever. And I want to thank all of you for getting up 8 in the morning. If people could see how many people are gathered here, they would say, you all are truly blessed to have the support of America, Christine and Elmore. And I want to thank the media for covering this matter, because they don't always cover when our children are taken away from us in highly unquestionable ways. And I do understand there's a lot of news going on in America today. I woke up to them saying LeBron James is going to announce where he's going to play basketball next year. But I'm very happy that the media said this story is just as important. And I'm sure LeBron James and Rich Paul and Stephon Curry and Draymond Green, Jaylen Brown, Embiid, Maxey, Giannis, Bam, and many other players in the National Basketball Association will all agree that our children's lives are far more important than where LeBron or any other player will play next year. And so that's why I thank you all for being here, because this news is as important as any news in the United States of America. Finding out why is Nolan Wells dead? want to thank you all who have called the call center. I want to thank Reverend Al Sharpton. I want to thank Mr. Tyler Perry. I want to thank Mr. Terry Owens for putting up the $125,000 reward for anybody out there who have information so we can get to the truth of what happened. I mean, any videos, and we've gotten so many videos, President Johnson, from that day from young people, and we want them to have the courage to come forward with the pictures, what you heard. I know people said there were a lot of disturbances out there. Some believe it involved Nolan. All of those things are important to get to the truth of what happened. The fact, Christine, that the United Cajun Navy are so forthcoming. The fact that they told us, we haven't heard from any of their local officials, that Nolan was found face down, fully clothed. Well, that's significant to us because the last time we saw him on the videos, he was without a shirt. So at what point did he put on a shirt? Somebody saw something. Somebody knows something. There were almost 300, 400 people. Somebody knows something. So, Scott X, we're trying to just make sure people understand that you can call the Nolan Wells tip line at bencrump.com. We will gladly listen to you, take any information as we try to put together this puzzle of what happened to Nolan Wells. And today, we're going to add some more parts to this puzzle because my legal team and I, we stand for truth, no matter who it implicates or who it exonerates. We stand for justice, no matter who it convicts or it acquits. Yeah, and we stand for transparency because we got eyes that can see, and we don't need government officials having to narrate it for you and me. We can see it for ourselves. Transparency. That leads to the truth. The truth is the foundation for accountability and justice. And that's all we're seeking, as Christina Elmore said from day one. So with that, and Christina Elmore, if you all want to sit, we're about to go through this autopsy. I know it may be a little emotional. Thank you, President. Let's go. As we begin to present the preliminary findings of the autopsy, we want to especially thank Mr. Colin Kaepernick for not thinking it robbery to pay for the autopsy. Let's go with the first one. So, And the autopsy will be provided for the media at press@bencrump.com. And so, Mr. Jones, keep that. I don't need this. So, for this. So, Dr. Roger Mitchell, board-certified forensic pathologist, performed a preliminary report on the death of Nolan Xavier Wells. He conducted and presented this report on July 19, 2026. Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report this morning. The manner of death, undetermined, pending investigation. Statement of examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells, age 18 years old, race, black, gender, male, date of death, unknown. Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026. Preliminary findings, and this is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation. He said corona incision of the scalp, brain removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso, and he talked about the organs being removed as is common, accompanied in the body cavity. And that when you have an autopsy, the organs are removed from the body and they're dissected and examined. And then they're put back in a bag within inside the body. So when they're buried, their remains will all be with them. But in this occasion, if there's going to be a second autopsy, then the organs are put in the body cavity so the second pathologist could be able to examine the organs as well. Very significant for Dr. Mitchell was that the anterior inner neck structures were absent, not received with the body. And we'll explain that in just a minute. And then it talks about the additional procedures performed during the second autopsy. And we'll go into the paragraphs on that there because he explains it better in his narrative. So where's the first page of the discussion? Not the diagram yet. Diagram over there. So, he talks in the preliminary discussion opinion. This forensic pathologist identified several limitations during the second autopsy that create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells. And that's important. He talks about the fact that we didn't get to see the body when it was first recovered like the medical examiner working for Mississippi would have seen. He talked about the second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decompensation or changes. Marked decompensation can obscure the presence and absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. What he's saying, because the body was so decomposed that you couldn't tell if there was bruises or abrasions on the body when he received it on the 10th of July. For these reasons, additional dissection procedures not performed during the first autopsy examination were performed to rule out potential blunt force injuries responsible for the death. These procedures included facial dissection, posterior head and neck dissection, dissection of the ribs, the pelvic, dissection of the subcutaneous and deep soft tissue, dissection of the back, the buttocks, the arms, and legs. He did all of this to rule out things. He ruled out there were no fractures or deep tissue injuries identified. This was very important because he wanted to be very thorough and very transparent, because transparency is the key to getting to the answers of why Nolan Wells is not with us. So he did that there and was very straightforward, very open, very open. He says, however, dissection of the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. And he talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head? And so he was important to note that in his report. He said that etiology of this finding is unclear. There are no lacerations of the overlaying skin nor fractures of the underlying skull. These findings are inconclusive for perimortem injury due to both the extensive decomposition and the absence of associated injuries. This finding, however, is significant enough to be highlighted in this preliminary report for further investigation. It is important to reiterate that the finding could not have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissection were not performed. He said another limitation faced by this forensic pathologist was the absence of the anterior internal neck structures. The trachea and the laryngeal cartilage, the thyroid horn, and the hyoid bone were not received with the body. So he's saying that the throat was not received with the body when he got Nolan Wells' body in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. And so let's discuss that with what he said about that. He said, it is assumed that the initial pathologist retained these structures for additional evaluation. He said the retention of the anterior neck structures during an initial autopsy is a common forensic pathology practice. He was chief medical examiner for 7 years in Washington, D.C., and he said that if they had concern about throat or any fracture or compression of the throat, they too will hold them back. He doesn't know why they held the throat back, but he said the throat was not with the body of Nolan Wells when he received it in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. He said, nevertheless, a posterior neck dissection performed without review of the anterior neck structures is incomplete. Therefore, this pathologist cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death. He said he would need to have the medical examiner in Mississippi allow him to review the throat. That's why he said his autopsy is undetermined pending investigation. Remember, it's about transparency. Because the initial autopsy rightfully removed and dissected each organ, there are additional limitations inherent in the second autopsy of Nolan Wells. The most significant of the limitations was the inability to directly observe the airway and the lungs for water and directly observe the stomach for gastric contents. He said it is very significant as to what the initial forensic scientists who got to review the body when it was recovered. We have heard from my call center people saying the body wasn't waterlogged. Well, we need to know those things. But unfortunately, because the body was decomposed and the organs have already been dissected, those are things we can only get from the initial autopsy. So therefore, again, the manner and cause of death is undetermined until further investigation. We are hopeful that the Mississippi Medical Examiner would give Dr. Mitchell an opportunity to see their photographs and their observations to the condition of Nolan Wells' body closer in time to July 4th. That is very important, and we have to continue to demand transparency, President Johnson. In addition, the original toxicology results have not been received at the time of this report. And we continue to wait for the toxicology to come back because, again, that will be part of the investigation into Nolan Wells' autopsy by Dr. Mitchell. It is significant to know that it's many things that go into toxicology that only Dr. Mitchell will be able to opine upon, and medical experts can opine upon. And he feels the proper place to do that is before a grand jury in a courtroom. And so we would hope that the district attorney would present Dr. Mitchell before the grand jury as well. We want all relevant information to be heard by the grand jury. Lastly, in cases where a death has occurred in or around a body of water, this is important. Lastly, in cases where a death has occurred in or around a body of water with suspicion of drowning, it is important to confirm how that person entered the water. This is the crux of the matter. This information is especially important for those deaths of persons who can swim. As in the case with Nolan Wells, at the time of this report, this forensic pathologist does not know the condition of Nolan Wells. He did not know whether he was conscious or unconscious when he entered the water. He said that would be significant. He said he did not know whether he was forced into the water or unforced into the water. He said that would be significant. So he said the condition of Nolan Wells before he entered the water would be the crux of the matter. It would be of utmost importance to being able to determine a cause and manner of death. He said definitive circumstances of death are required to determine the manner of death. For these reasons, this pathologist cannot rule out, and let me really call your attention to this. For these reasons, this pathologist cannot rule out if any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death of Nolan Wells. Understand, he said based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play. That is significant. With the following questions still outstanding, number one, what were the circumstances that led to Nolan Xavier Wells entering the water? Number two, what was the body position when it was found? We know that a member of the United Cajun Navy said that he was face down and he was fully clothed. Number three, was there water in the airway? Remember he talked about the lungs and the airways where they fill with water. Number four, is there any evidence of injuries to the anterior neck structure? We got the autopsy without his neck. We got the body without his neck at the time of the second autopsy. Number five, is there any evidence of any intracranial hemorrhaging? He said that is going to be very significant. Things that he could not observe at autopsy that the initial medical examiner would have been able to observe. Number six was the composition of what was the composition of the stomach contents? He talks about that being important because when was he found? How long had he been in the water? How long had it been since his last meal? All those things become relevant factors when you're trying to do a thorough and impartial autopsy. And number seven, what are the toxicology report findings? He said the best classification again for the cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells is undetermined pending investigation. This forensic pathologist reserves the right to review and incorporate additional forensic pathology information into his opinion as it becomes available. He says, the above opinions are expressed to a reasonable degree of medical certainty. Dr. Roger A. Mitchell, July 19, 2026. And we know that, as I said, this is only another part of the puzzle. And even though it tells us significant information, we still have more questions than we have answers at this time. And we will continue to press forward and persist, Christine and Elmore, with getting the answers to these questions. Because as you, yes, we will persist, because as Christine and Elmore and Attorney Parker and I talked this morning, we know that there are so many conflicting stories. The fact that, she said, him being found face down. The fact that we have other videos where people who have called said that is Nolan, who is in some kind of dispute with others. We're looking at all of these things. The fact that the GPS tracking of the boat is being questioned by many. We're trying to dot every I and cross every T, because we understand that when our children's lives are at stake, it matters. Not just what happened, but what we do in the aftermath of them being taken away from us. And just like the NAACP stood up when another tragedy in Mississippi, taking the life of young Emmett Till, we will stand up for Nolan Wells. Just like the NAACP and civil rights leaders stood up when another Mississippi son was taken in Medgar Evers. We will stand up for Nolan Wells. And just like too many of our young people, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Botham Jean, Terrence Crutcher, Stephon Clark, Sandra Bland, Atiana Jefferson, Alton Sterling, Eric Gardner, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, the young people who I was trying to focus on. Gary, we stand up until we get the truth, until we get justice for Nolan Wells. 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 We will ask if Christine and Elmore and President Johnson can come back and join us on the stage, and Travad, we will have you coordinate questions and answers for us or President Johnson or Attorney Park and I will say this: as President Johnson comes to the stage, I was sharing this with him and Chairman Russell, Christine Clark. God knows we wish we had you at the Department of Justice now. Christine Clark. as I was sharing with President Johnson and Reverend Al and others, this is so important that we continue to talk about Nolan Wells and what happened to him, and that we get attention on him, because in getting attention on him, it brings attention, Cliff Jones, to other cases that are not getting their attention as of yet. But I'm so grateful to Christine and Elmore, because they said whatever we can do, not only to help our son, but to help these other young black boys who was killed the July 4th holiday. And I want to take a moment before we answer your questions to talk about two other young black men, both 18 years old, who were killed in extraordinary ways that are very similar to Nolan. President Johnson, 18-year-old Daniel Irvins went on a fishing trip, out on a fishing boat with two other young men. He was the only black. It is alleged that he ended up accidentally drowning, but his two white friends got his cell phone and threw it away, got his clothes and threw it away, and then went and deleted all of their text messages with him and social media. Sounds familiar? And they've only been charged with tampering with evidence. And his mother is crying out that they should be charged with murder, because if they would lie about his cell phone and his clothes and deleted messages, then they will lie about what really happened to Daniel Irvins. And then there's the matter of President Johnson, Christine Clark, of 18-year-old Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith, on 4th of July, was at a house party with about 10 other people. He was the only black person at the house. He somehow ends up shot in the head, dead. Some of the friends get rid of the gun. The police show up. They tell the police it was an accident. It was an accidental shooting, that they were playing Russian roulette. And Tyler Smith ended up getting killed. And apparently, Christine Clark, President Johnson, the police just took their word for it. His mother and grandmother are incensed. They asked the police, did you do a gunshot residue test on his hands? And the reason they said they had to call us, like Daniel Irvins and Nolan Wells' family, because the police told them, President Johnson, that there was no need to do gunshot residue on his hands or any of the other people in the house, because I don't understand this logic, but they said if they were playing Russian roulette, then all of them would have gunshot residue on their hands. So we don't need to do gunshot residue tests. It makes no sense whatsoever. So they're taking the word of these 10 people that your son just killed himself. And you don't have to worry about doing any investigation or testing forensically anything. Just take our word for it. Now, can you imagine in any three of these scenarios, had the survivors been young black men and they were with a young white man and he ended up dead, what kind of investigation would that have been? What kind of interrogation would that have been? Would they have ever been able to see the light of day until those questions were answered? Well, just like you would do a thorough investigation for your children, we want you to do a thorough investigation for our children. We don't want anything special. We just want equal justice. Equal justice. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Trevon to lead us in the final session.
Well, a few questions. We have my colleagues on either side with microphones. Please announce your name and your media outlet if you have any questions. We're going to be quick because we have other programming going on in real time. We'll go here first.
Hi, everybody. Samantha Chapman, ABC 7 Chicago. You just unveiled a comprehensive outline of the independent report. Can you summarize for our viewers? Because there's a lot to take in, a lot of information. So in summary, can you succinctly tell us what we can take away from this report? And also, if you can provide more details about the neck.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of people behind me gasping when that detail was mentioned.
Yeah. Let me try to be very comprehensive. As Dr. Roger Mitchell said, that the focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region, is significant because he cannot determine why you have that red discoloration in the back of his brain. That's significant. He also talked about, Mr. Williams, just the fact that as it's common practice, he was missing his throat when they received the body. And he wants to know why they held it back. He's not drawing any conclusions, but he said he would want to examine it if there were neck fractures or compressions to the neck, and he thinks that's significant to know at autopsy. The reason he says he would hold it back when he was medical examiner because he thought that there may have been some issues with neck fractures. The last thing that is significant is what we said before about him, the condition of his body when he went into the water. Was he conscious or unconscious? Was he forced or unforced into the water? He said those things are very significant. But he started off talking about this red discoloration in the back of his head is something that was of great concern to him. Thank you.
We'll go here.
Daryl Denard with Chicago Speaks on V103. What specifically are you calling for from Mississippi authorities in terms of transparency, but more importantly, investigations?
And I know President Johnson is from the state of Mississippi, and the Mississippi Conference president is here. They're calling, as we are, for a fair, impartial, comprehensive investigation. When Nolan's parents heard the sheriff say there's no foul play at the beginning of the investigation, that is cause for concern, major concern. You haven't even investigated, but you're saying no foul play. And so we want them to dot every I and cross every T. You know, we had a meeting with the district attorney, and we expressed to them about our lived experiences. Our lived experiences. the fact, and you know, they said that's not what happens in her office, but we said we believe if the roles were reversed and there were 3 young black 18-year-olds and there was a white 18-year-old who was with them and he ended up dead, we don't believe that those young black men would not have been interrogated to the full extent of the law. We believe that it would not have been a choice whether they were going to cooperate with law enforcement if their lawyers and them were going to cooperate. No, they would have been held until they gave answers. They would have been held until they explained the cell phone in their possession. They would have been held until their cell phones have been examined. And so whatever you would do, had the roles been reversed, we want you to do the same thing for Nolan Wells.
We have time for one more question, and then we're going to have a prayer with our Religious Affairs Committee with the family. One more question here. What's there?
I'm Tiffany Walden with the Tribe in Chicago. I know that we're talking about a transparent investigation, but for families and people who are watching, can you kind of give a breakdown or a timeline to the best of your ability of the contact that you've had with Mississippi authorities or Ocean Springs authorities or the Cajun Navy? Have you all talked to them? Do they call you after the initial autopsy? Is it just radio silence from them? Do you have to call them? Can you kind of walk us through that process?
So, the last time we actually spoke with local authorities, which would be the Sheriff's Department, was I think a day or two after his body was found. That was only initiated by me. I sent him a text message. I was like, hey, this is Christine, Nolan's mom. I just want to see if there are any updates. Basically, he called back. There were no updates. He's like, we're still interviewing. And again, my concern, and also my husband's concern, was it was not even an hour that his body had been removed. And the sheriff came out and said, this is, accidental drowning. We don't think there's foul play. Again, that is why we're doing what we're doing and why we're moving the way we are. Because I sat there and asked them, please take this case as if this is your child, yes, your family member, your whatever. And they promised that they would, but when you make statements like that straight out the gate, that's an issue. We did meet with the DA. She did promise, transparency and all of this, all of that. However, damage has already been done because now that's the narrative that's being pushed by the general public, who again, know nothing really, only what they're hearing from other people. So in addition to that, it's all these things coming up. And at the end of the day, like I said before, any parent that would be in this situation, you would do anything to find out what happened to your child. And that is what we're here to do.
It is very important to note that this narrative, this suggestion that it was an accidental drowning, nothing to see here, is troubling, even if that's the case. There were 300 to 400 people out on Horns Island. You mean to tell me nobody saw anything? Nobody can tell us anything about what happened to one of the few black people that were out there on that island that day? It just doesn't add up. The fact that they're saying Nolan said that he would stay behind, but yet an 18-year-old kid would not want his cell phone if he was going to stay behind. The fact that, you have the young lady saying that he said he was going to get back on the boat with the boys, and then the boys saying no, he said he was going to stay behind and talk to her. If that was the case, don't you believe Nolan would have said, give me my cell phone, I'm going to stay behind. Give me my car keys, I'm going to stay behind. It's not adding up. And so we're going to keep fighting and digging until we get the answers, the transparency, the truth, the accountability, and justice for Nolan Wells. 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 Justice for Nolan Wells.
Justice for Nolan Wells.
Justice for Nolan Wells.
Justice for Nolan Wells. We're going to have our Religious Affairs Committee join us quickly so we can have a quick word of prayer with the family, and that will conclude our press conference formally.
Good morning. It's a good morning in spite of all that we have heard. It's a good morning because we're here for justice. I'm Reverend Wendell Anthony from the Detroit branch and also a member of the National Board of Directors and part of the Religious Affairs Committee, joined by colleagues who are here. I'm going to ask all of you if you would be so kind as to just link arms. Just link arms so that we can link ourselves around this particular moment and around this family. There's an old African proverb that says, those whom we love die only in the physical sense, but their spirit continues to live on in the will and determination of those whom they leave behind. Mr. and Mrs. Wells, I did not know your son. But I could tell from just looking at his photograph, I can feel the aura, the joy that you talked about. We all can experience and feel that. Ben Crump has chronicled the list of pain moments in our community by the deceased, and by those who are now martyrs. We have been dying since 1619, still seeking justice. Pray with me. O Lord, our Lord, how very excellent is thy name in all the earth. We are here for but one reason: to answer the question, what does the Lord require of us? But to do justice, to love mercy, to even walk humbly with our God. Lord God, your people are here beseeching justice. We're here for transparency. We're here for truth. You who are the way, the truth, and the life. We're here because of you. Lord God, how long must we continue to pay evil a toll at the gateway towards justice? How long must we see our children lie bleeding in the streets, in the sand, in the water, in the asphalt pavements of this nation that we built? Even on July the 4th, a day that serves a lesson in mockery and dichotomy, where we talk about independence, yet we are not independent from those who seek justice. Help us, Lord. Bless us right now. Bless this family. Cover this mother whose tears fall down her cheeks. Cover this father as he remembers his son, whom he taught and whom he mentored to play in life, but more importantly, to play the game the way it should be played in living. Lord God, we thank you so much. We've gone down the road. They lied on Martin. They lied on Medgar. They lied on Malcolm, but more importantly, oh God, they lied on you. You who know about lies. We know that the truth shall eventually set us all free. Help us to get the truth. Even in Mississippi, oh Lord. Help us to get the truth for our children. You know, like we know, there are more black boys in school than are in jail. We know, oh God, that there are more of us who are striving for the benefit of life rather than the poison from living. Oh Lord, how long will justice continue to lift up her brow so that she can see who is standing before us, so she can make a decision that is not in our interest, but in the interest of those who seem to be different from us. Help us, Lord. Don't we as a people bleed like everybody else? Don't we as a people need comfort like everybody else? Don't we as a people need justice like everybody else? Don't we as a people feel the pain when our children are taken from us like everybody else? Help America, Lord, because America has a problem. We don't have a problem. America has a problem. Fix the problem. In 250 years, we still seem to suffer from the same old problem. Fix America, oh God. Fix justice, oh God. Fix us, oh God. Fix Mississippi, oh God. Fix those who are standing at the gateway to break open the doors for justice. Not just us, but justice. Help us now, Lord. This is our prayer. This is our plea. And we seek that which you have the power to give, and that is justice. The just shall live by their faith. The just shall live by their faith. And oh Lord, we know that when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Let's win in the name of justice. Let the people who love God, who are called according to his name for every good purpose, who believe in justice, say amen. 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 Now give justice our hand praise. We praise God for justice. God bless you. President Johnson, I want you to know, and those who are here, there are 12,000 people who are looking at this press conference on YouTube. That was 30 minutes ago. There were 14,000 people who were looking at it on the roofs. That was 30 minutes ago. Ben Crump, this ain't no secret. The nation is looking for justice.
Okay. Okay, they're closing up now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, and I'm glad we had a chance to watch the whole entire news release of his autopsy results. So what we know so far, the cause and manner of death is undetermined, pending further investigation, and the date of death is unknown. And here's a couple of things. Dr. Robert Mitchell is the one who performed the independent autopsy. And let me see. I'm trying to go over some of my notes that I wrote down. Benjamin Crump said that they stand for truth, justice, and transparency. And truth is the foundation for accountability and justice. And shout out to Tyler Perry, Terrell, I think it was Terry Owens, I'm not sure if I got that name correct, for the offering $125,000 for the reward of information. And shout out to Colin Kaepernick. And I came upon, hold on, my stuff is falling down. Okay, I came upon an article on my phone when I was watching the news conference, and I hope I didn't lose it. Okay, so it have Tyler Perry and Reverend Al Sharpton. They're putting up $100,000 to encourage those with information about the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells to come forward. Sharpton announced a $50,000 reward during Wells' funeral on July 20th at Center Point Church in Ocean Spring, Mississippi, offering the money to anyone who provides information that leads to an arrest and conviction in the case. He was not on that island by himself. Somebody saw something and knows something, Sharpton said while eulogizing Wells. I didn't come to make money. I came to give money. Stand up and tell the truth, he continued, according to the Associated Press. So moments later, the civil rights leader revealed that Perry had texted him during the service and pledged to match the reward, bringing the total to $100,000, reports from Fox News. Tyler Perry said, I'm going to match you and put up $50,000 more. So we're putting up 100 G's for anybody that come forth, Sharpton said. We just want the truth. The billionaire filmmaker has also covered the cost of Wells' funeral, while former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick has reportedly funded an independent autopsy requested by the family, report people.com. Wells, a black and Asian freshman college football player, disappeared while hanging out with a group of white friends during a 4th of July gathering on Mississippi's Horn Island. His body was discovered 2 days later, although authorities have indicated they believe Wells drowned and have said that they do not currently suspect foul play. Wells' family said those conclusions are premature, and indeed they are, because in the end of the news conference, the mom said that the last time she spoke to local authorities was like a day after they discovered his body. So they're not in contact with each other. So it disappears that, judging from the actions of the local authorities, that they are not keeping in contact, nor do they really care about getting to the truth or the bottom of what happened to Nolan Wells. So the official autopsy and toxicology reports have not yet been completed. Meanwhile, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office has said the investigation remains active, and the case will be presented to a grand jury once it concludes. Nevertheless, the case, which has racial undertones, has sparked a nationwide call for transparency and accountability. Absolutely, we do need transparent and accountability from the local authorities of Mississippi. And I think it's just a shame that the initial autopsy results haven't been revealed yet, so we really don't have anything concrete to go on. And I find it interesting that the throat has been held back for whatever reasons. And so, like I said at the beginning of the video, maybe perhaps there's some indication of it was damaged in some kind of way. I'm thinking like, this is just me talking, like strangulation or something like that to damage the neck muscles and like that. But they did held it back, and all the organs have been accounted for and included with the body when it was turned over for the independent autopsy. So we don't have to worry about any kind of missing body parts. And another thing that I find interesting is that I didn't hear anything about any water being in his lungs. If they are reporting initially that they believe that it was an accidental drowning, in the independent autopsy, I haven't heard any mention of any water being in the lungs or anything about the lungs for that matter. And then in closing, Ben Crump did say with the news of LeBron James, I guess he's holding a press conference about where he's going to play next year. Ben Crump said that our children's lives are far more important, and it is finding out why Nolan Wells is dead. So even though that they trying to mix this with the big announcement of LeBron James, this is far more important, especially because LeBron James, he's still here in the land of the living, and there's no question about what happened to him. But there is a question about what happened to Nolan Wells, because he is no longer in the land of the living, and there is some suspicion surrounding the his death. Simple as that. So this is definitely more important. And again, I will ask to keep the family in our prayers, because I know it was hard for the parents to sit there and listen to them talking about the autopsy and findings and the results, and them making incisions in different parts of his body, his throat missing. They making incision his organs placed in bags and placed in a place in their body where they normally are, but they're in bags. And so it's the man, we got to keep them in prayer. And so I'm glad, and it was fruitful for them to end the press release in prayer. That is absolutely beautiful, and I commend that. So I know this was a long video, and I will see y'all in my next video, okay? Y'all stay blessed.